Being sent around. I know many of you know, you've seen on Facebook, we were out of town. We were in Haiti, and we just got back yesterday. And from the point of going to a foreign country, I want to tell you that I've always had, as a pastor, mixed emotions about going on mission trips. I've heard people that were long-term missions say, well, you know, I don't think it's a good idea to do short-term mission trips because short-term mission trips, you're only there for a week and it seems like that they're on vacation. And so I kind of adopted somewhat of a thought process of that for a while. I've heard also people say, well, you can do mission work right in your neighborhood or in your same county, so why would you need to go on a mission trip? Why don't we just do it here in our county where people are hurting? And so I've at times adopted kind of that mentality, but I've also heard people say, I go on a mission trip every chance I can because it's life-changing. So as a pastor, I've adopted somewhat of that mentality, especially when it's your wife telling you that she wants to go every single year for the rest of her life. And so last year, my wife went to Haiti and she come back and she said, next year, will you do me a favor? Will you just go with me 1 year? If you don't like it, then don't ever go back, and I'll keep going, and you don't have to worry about it, and I won't bug you about it ever again. And I said, all right, I'll go. And then throughout the year, this year, many times I told my wife, I don't think I'm going to go. And she's like, no, you're going. You committed to going. Your name's on the docket. You're going. We've got your passport. You're going. And even up like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was saying, I just don't know about going. Because for one, if anybody does not like heat, it's me. If anybody does not like to be out in the weather, it's me. I don't really want to be in, and I've said a million times, do I love kids? No, I don't. And so, and I know as a pastor that sounds bad, but I've never really been a kid person. And so I come in this morning and CJ said, for somebody that don't like kids, I want to let you know, man, they were hanging all over you. And I'm like, I know. But it's different. It's different when you're in a different country and you see kids that never get love and will accept you basically as almost a parent right away as a mother-father role. And you understand that when you're holding a child, every single, person that comes in to share love in a country like that, really quick you realize this is not like doing VBS at my home church. This is not like the American kids. So I want to give you one perspective real quick, because I don't want to drag this whole thing out about Haiti, and because I don't think it would be beneficial to you as a church for me to sit here and tell you about a place that maybe you've never been, about people that you've never met, about an experience that I had that you weren't there. And there's nothing worse than somebody trying to tell you a story about something unless you experience it, because every year for the last 5 or 6 years I've heard my wife tell me about her experiences, and I'm just like, yeah, but it really don't mean a whole lot to me because I really wasn't there and didn't experience it. So I don't want to spend the whole time. But here's what I want to share with you real quick. A new, maybe, way of thinking about people that go on mission trips. And I hope that our church would adopt this kind of mentality. And I wish that it wasn't 4th of July weekend, because I know a lot of people are camping, a lot of people are on vacation. But I really wish that a lot of us would get this mentality. In America, raise your hand if you've ever saw a kid die because they didn't have something to eat. In America?
Not America.
All right. In America.
I'm sorry.
In America, I've never seen a child starve to death. In America, have you ever seen a child die because they didn't get a flu vaccine? Have you ever saw a child that they couldn't read, they couldn't get any kind of education? Not because, and because they couldn't, not because they couldn't get to the school, but because their parents could never afford to send them to school. That's not going to happen, folks. I want to tell you, there are places in the Appalachians that are very, very desolate. I understand that. But I want to tell you, in Grant County, in our community of places that you have all this opportunity from the government to take care of you, so you may never have to work a job. from food stamps to take care of you, so the government can send you a card or whatever that you can get food. For every church, there are 76 churches that if you're hungry and you have no other option, you can sit on and call on a phone book and just call church after church after church, and there's going to be some Linda Breeden, there's going to be some Donna, there's going to be some Pam, there's going to be somebody, a Josh or a CJ or an Earl, that says, I'll meet you up church and we're going to meet your need so that you are not hungry today. That's going to happen, right? In America, that happens. If the church is not an option, right down the street you got a place called Hope that you can go to, and Hope's got this little thing that everything is free in the place. Like you can go there and you can get dishes and you can get curtains and you can get food and you can get all these resources. If the school teachers see that a child is struggling, they will even go buy clothes and they'll wash clothes and put new clothes on the kids so when a kid comes in the next day that they can have a change of clothes. That happens in our county right now. So I want to give you a vision, just another way of looking at it, is that when you have 2.2 million people living in a 14-mile radius of Port-au-Prince and nobody does nothing, what happens is people die continually, day after day. And it happens. And there's somebody has to do something. And if the church doesn't do anything, now these aren't people that aren't working. These people hustle more than I've ever seen anybody in all my life hustle. These people will sit on the side of the road to sell something to make $2. Most of them don't have electric, they don't have plumbing, they don't have no way of keeping food cold, so they don't look at, am I going to store food for a week? I'm just looking for the next couple days. They just don't have the resources. So when we go and when we love, and when people go on long-term mission trips, it makes a difference. And we are called to be the church to go everywhere. Okay? And that's my point of view now with that, is that if you can go, then you should go. But like I said, I don't want to come back here and talk about Haiti and I held this little kid, this little black girl, she just laid on me in her braids and I'm just like loving it, right? I don't think I would like that in our children's church. I don't know why. It's weird. But I love that there for some reason. I had one little boy that maybe if it happened in America, they might get their jaw jacked. But I have 4 kids come up behind me and I can tell you that these kids, they may see white people every once in a while, but a lot of times they don't see heavy white people every once in a while. So I had 4 kids come up and just sit right behind me, and all they did, their biggest amusement of coming to the church camp thing that we were holding, is they were hitting my fat roll right here. I mean, just bouncing it. I said, hey, stop that. No, he's looking at me like, I don't understand, right? You understand, stop. Right? And another kid calls another kid over, and 4 of them are sitting there, and they're just bouncing my little fat roll right here. Finally, I turned around and I said, that's enough. That's enough. And they're just smiling. They said, happy? Because to them, if you are bigger, you must be pretty happy because you get to eat a lot. Right? So he's like, happy, you're happy. And then I had another boy they call 30-year-old, like 8-year-old, and he looks like he's 30 years old. He looks like he's Gary Coleman, but he's only like maybe 8 or 10. Kid walked straight up to me, and he juggled my belly, and he jumped back, and he said, too big. And just walked away, man. I'm like, I'll jack your jaw. You come out here, you little kid. But there's not, and I talked to Josh and Dizzy who live there long term, and they said, listen, it's not about disrespect. You have to understand, they don't see this every day. So for them, there's some amusement when you get to eat every day when they don't. There's some amusement to them when they look at you and they realize that when you have white skin, it means wealthy. Means from America, where the land that they've been told of, where all the rich people live, all the people that have, and they don't want for nothing, which is true. That's what they've been told. So when they see me, they want to get over there and they want to bounce and they want to touch and they want to grab my belly. They want to hang all over you. Why? Because just for a second, they want something that they know they might not get again. They might not be able to come back to school again. They may not be able to come back there again. But I want to tell you that my greatest experience this week had nothing to do with the children. Nothing to do with them. My greatest experience this week that I think that the church should hear about was their church service that they had. On Sunday morning, this is what's cool about it. There's a lot of similarities to what they do, to what we do. And I thought that was just an amazing thing. Do you know that they start their church service there the exact same time we start our church service? So right now, there are people, and it's crazy how it's structured, at almost exactly the time that we're preaching, they're preaching. The times that we're playing music, they're playing music. The times that we're doing announcements, it's almost structurally the offering, everything, it seems to be. I watched them come up and do announcements. And I said, well, we do that sometimes like that. I watched them, then they came up and they did like an opening prayer. And I was like, well, we do that sometimes, and sometimes we do prayer in between the worship and the preaching. And I watched them do music. They did a full, praise and worship, whole set there. They had drums, they had a guitar, they had a bass, they had a keyboard. And I'm watching them, and after they got done doing that, they come up and they did a prayer, and then they did offering. And I'm looking and I'm saying, what I'm seeing here is our church in Haiti. I said, what I'm seeing here is, they did all that, then they did the altar call, and then afterwards everybody kind of talked, fellowship just a little bit, and then they went home. I said, I am seeing revive in Haiti. I'm seeing what we see. Like, that's the similarities, right? They do everything. But I want to tell you, with being the same, it was very, very different. Very, very different atmosphere. For the one thing is that many of you got here today in a car. Many of you today had no trouble probably getting here. And if you have a trouble getting here, we'll load you in our church bus and go get you. That's very nice air conditioning and got seats for as many as we can load. And once we get to 15, we bring them to the church and go back and get more. That's what we do. Everybody's got to have a seat. Everybody needs a seat belt, right? Well, when I got to church that day and 175, 200 people are there in what is about the same exact size as what we have here. I don't know if you got the picture up, but there is their church. And from the picture, it doesn't look as big. They got a roof. They don't have no walls. And what you see behind there are just a bunch of cinder blocks, but they have no windows or nothing on them. It's just all open so the breeze can come through, all the time. And it's really hot back there in them rooms. But, the whole structure was kind of the same. But I pulled up, and there's 200 people sitting in church that day, and there's 3 cars in the parking lot. That's it. And they had one wore out bus, and they said the bus wouldn't run this morning to go pick up people, so we're kind of lacking a lot of people today. And I'm like, there's 175 people here. And the closest house that I saw was like 3 miles down the road. Like, how'd they get here today? And they was like, dude, these people will walk if they got to walk 3 miles to church, 4 miles to church, 5 miles to church, if that's what it takes. Most of them will pay, 2 pennies to jump on the back of this old truck that's got a cage on it where it looks like you could maybe sit like 6 or 7 people comfortably. They'll put 25 people on it. And when we jump that bus at the very end of service, 102 people or 103 people is going to go get on that bus. And I'm thinking, there ain't no way. They always have this motto that there's always room for one more. So that means if they're sitting on top of the truck or on the hood or on the cage, whatever they got to do, they'll do that to get to where they're going. So it's very different how we got here today. And when I looked at the structure, when I walked in this building today, I was freezing. Because last Sunday I was in a church that didn't have air, didn't have walls. All they had was this breeze that come through, and you'd think, well, a breeze will be great. A breeze is really, really good, except for when it's so dry there that it picks up all the dust and it just throws it right all over you. So by the time you even get to church, you're already feeling stinky and sweaty and dirty and gritty, and you already know I need a bath already before I even get to where I'm going. That's another difference that I saw. But one of the things that amazed me the most is when I got to church on this 95-degree day or whatever it was, a little bit of breeze, like 90% of the people in there are dressed in suits and ties, dressed to the nines. What we would call the nines is not like, a nice suit, but they would have it look like what it looked like that they had put together. The best shoes that they could find, the best pants that they could find, the best shirt that they could find, the best tie that they could find. And it might be all mismatched or whatever, but they would put all that on because they believed going to church meant that you wore the very best that you had. And when you got home, you took that off. And the next week, you put that all back on again. And then when you got home, you took it off. So they might wear this for 10 years. That outfit was their Sunday outfit, the best that they had. That's just their culture. That's what they did. They spoke in a different language, so it was Creole that day. And every once in a while, they'd throw in a little bit of English. And they had the same type instruments, like I said, but there was a big difference in the quality of their instruments based on the quality of our instruments. And after church service, I went up there and checked out their instruments, which I realized that we have a keyboard up here that's really quite big, and their keyboard was about this size. And I'm like, well, that's okay. That's like a Walmart special that I would buy like a 6-year-old kid. That's what I would do. They had a drum that had busted the big head on it. If you see the big bass drum right here that we have, they had a big drum like that. It had a big split in it. So what they did is they just took a pair of pants and they cut them off. They took the ring off and they put the pair of pants on there and put it back on and tighten it up. And then that's what they've been hitting for the last couple years there. And I'm thinking, this is nuts what I'm seeing, right? I'm looking at like speaker cables, and we've got thousands of dollars wrapped up in speaker cables. And this one right here, we're not even using right now. And I'm not sure why, but it's laying here. And so this looks to me like I could put it at Guitar Center and sell it, right? Every single cable that I saw was cut. Every single cable that I saw was like red taped or electric taped, and if they didn't have that, they would just whatever they could use, but they would take their instruments out and in every single week. And because all those rooms in the back of that church don't have any kind of windows or structure, wind and rain and whatever just comes in on their instruments all year long. And I'm like, this is nuts what I'm seeing. This is amazing to me that when I come to church, before I got a good look at their stuff, it was amazing to me that these cats were like Chance. Like, I think Chance could probably play like a 2-liter bottle with a string on it. I honestly believe that. Like, every one of those cats, like, he would make that keyboard sound exactly like a CD would sound. And he figured out how to use all the buttons to make it work. And they were playing the Ovation that we sent them last year, but they broke it, or it broke or whatever, and it was going in and out, so they laid it down and went and sat down. No big deal. They didn't freak out. They just laid it on the ground, and the guy went and sat down and he worshiped that day. And it's funny because, give me 1 second, just 1 second. Sorry, Streves, you can fix them later for me. So, when Streves back there playing his drums, he's got some options, right? I'm like, he could play like this pair of sticks is a little bit heavier, or he's got all these sticks he can play. Like, I looked at the guy in the drums, I said, where's your sticks at? And you ain't gonna believe what he handed me. He handed me one stick. I didn't even see the other stick. So I don't know how the guy was playing, unless he was like just amazingly talented. He had one stick, it was about this long, and it was in a point and it was already broke. He goes, our guy plays with this stick. And I'm like, so I eventually looked around and I eventually saw there was one more stick, so he's playing with one longer stick and one short stick. And he said, but that's why our heads all got holes in them, because he's up there beating it with basically like a nail, what it looked like to me. And I'm like, that is crazy. But it sounded unbelievable that day when I was there. And I would say in this church, our worship team is amazing to me. Like, we are, you don't understand, I've been in church for the last 18, 20 years, and every church that I've ever been involved with does not have what we have. And I'm not talking about instruments, folks. I'm talking about a level of quality that we put out as a church in music. It's, to me, second to none in this county, I think. I think it's really good. I think we got an amazing worship leader. I think we got amazing singers. I think we got an amazing drummer, an amazing keyboard player, amazing bass player, amazing guitar player, and we have another guitar player and more singers, and behind them more singers. And I think our level of quality in this church, or what we do in music, to me, is amazing. But one thing that stuck out to me is when I sat through this service, their level of worship that day that I seen was amazing. It was amazing. I couldn't believe that the songs that I was singing and hearing them play, once I went up and saw what they were playing with, I was like, there is no way you just played 5 songs with this set of equipment. There's no way. But I'm going to tell you, if our worship was marked on the quality of the instruments that we played, we'd have a big problem. If it was marked on the instruments that we played, we'd be way ahead of them. If it was marked on the quality of the instruments, there'd be no comparison. But I want to tell you, your worship to God and coming to this church and singing and playing or whatever you do, your worship is not dependent upon the quality of what you have. It's dependent on your heart. It's dependent on the heart. And a better word would be is the quality of your sacrifice that you give to God. Now, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody in here, but I know for me as a pastor, when I start thinking about, my worship is my sacrifice, I'm going to tell you, as a church, I don't see us lacking in a whole lot. There's some things that we would love to have, but we're not lacking, and God's opened up about every single door that we've ever wanted in this church. So I know God's anointing is on it. But when I look at our church, we're not lacking. So I wonder, when you're not lacking as a whole, as a body, where is the sacrifice? Is the sacrifice just in saying that I'm going to be available? Maybe it is, man. Like maybe it's saying I'm going to do and be available to whatever you need. Maybe that is the level of sacrifice that God is wanting. And for some people, I believe that's true. For some people, maybe your level of sacrifice is saying that I'm going to go into a room and I'm going to pray for the people of our county, and I'm going to pray for our church and our church leaders, and I'm going to be fervent in prayer. Maybe that is what God is saying. That's your sacrifice. But for every person sitting in here, I can guarantee your sacrifice is, for one, probably something different than the person sitting right next to you. And the only question is are you doing it? Are we doing it? Am I doing it? Because what I seen in this service, I was blown away and moved by. Their junky instruments that they had. If you look at that building, there ain't no carpet in there. We don't have no carpet in here. But we do have a nice, clean, painted floor. And what I saw is a group of 175 people all in like unison. When the band started playing and the music started playing, they started rejoicing. Like in a way that was like, to me, amazing. When they prayed, like these people just didn't say, oh, let's pray for offering. That's a great idea. No, when these people prayed, they would get down on their hands and knees, man. It didn't matter how old you was. It didn't matter. They got down and they was like crying and weeping for God to move. And more than weeping for God to move, they were thanking God. And then I saw this cat that had one leg, about 95-year-old man. And I'm like, he ain't getting down. It ain't happening. Sure enough, when it come time for prayer, he set the crutches aside on what I wouldn't even call a quality pew. I mean, you couldn't even sit on them. There's like a bench about like 6 inches. Big old me sat on them things, and I mean, every time I moved or scooted, I'd move the whole row because they weren't even level, man. Like something's wrong with them benches. Somebody needs to go and level them out for them or something. But they didn't seem to even catch that was a problem for them. Maybe it was only my mindset, right? So come time to pray, this 90-year-old man, however he did it, grabbed the pew, down he went on his one knee, both hands in the air, and tears are just coming down his face. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I ain't never seen nothing like this in all my life. So after service, I went up and I talked to the worship leader, and his name is Smith Cadet. And Smith Cadet has been leading worship there for a little while, and I was telling him, I said, back in the States, I said, I played music quite a bit, and I said, the ovation that's broke now, and I'm going to try to fix it before I leave, and I did fixing it, but I just went out and got a stick and jammed it in a hole to hold a piece of electronics down, and it worked, so now they're good this week, and I'm sure they played it today. But when I went up there and talked to him, here's what I told him. I said, Smith, I need you to let me know what you need. And he says, let me show you what we got. And he's walking me around like everything that he had. And I was like, this is a joke. And then he turned to me as I was thinking to build a list. Okay, you need some cables, and you need mic cables, and you need a cordless mic. You've got to have that, because if you can have that, you can move around, and you need some wires, and man, you need your own keyboard. And he says, well, the keyboard we have is borrowed, and he's trying to tell me something. And I'm like, well, you need a keyboard, and this bass, this drum right here, this whole drum set's falling apart. And he's like, and finally he's like, listen, what we really need is some people. He said, maybe you can structure a mission trip. You ain't gonna believe what he said. Maybe you can structure a mission trip where maybe you can bring some music guys and show us how to worship more authentic than what we're doing now. And I just looked at him. And I'm like, no, you don't want that. I didn't say a word. I said, man, that'd be a great idea. But at one point in time during this worship set that I'm watching happening during the service, because I was more watching and memorized by how these people worship, at one point in time the worship leader got down on his hands and knees right out in the front, man. And he just raises both hands in the air. He says, here I am to worship, and here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely. And I'm like, you're kidding, right? Like, you want me to bring some worship teams from America to show you and your band how to worship? Maybe the better thing would be is to get you a visa and get you to America to show you what we have so you can tell us, what in the crap are y'all doing? How does this music not bring you to just tears running down your face? And when he got to the part, it says, I'll never know how much it cost to see my sin upon that cross. I just stood there and I said, no, listen. Here's what we can offer. I said, maybe we can get some music guys to come over here and show you guys how to pack the equipment better, so that when you drag it across the concrete, it don't get tore up in 3 or 4 months. Maybe we can even build a room back here to, after service, we can wheel the equipment back in there and we can, and safely show you guys how to roll cables and stack your stuff in here in a way and put it back in the cases so that it don't get damaged. Maybe we can show you some stuff and we can be of a real help, because they physically, truly don't know. All they have is some people that know how to worship. I said, maybe that would be a better thing for me to show you. And maybe that would be better for me to go back and see how I can get you some equipment over here by going to Matthew 25 Ministries and try to get a crate filled and shipped to Port-au-Prince. And if they'll do it and they'll help us out, I'm going to go on a mission of trying to help them get stuff over there to play with that can be their own, that can be the church's own, that's not borrowed and that's not tore up. And then maybe we can go over and show them how to do it all. But here's the thing that God impressed with me that I really think that the American church needs to hear, is I will never look at Romans 12, 1 and 2 the same the rest of my life. Because this is what God said. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Offer your bodies as a sacrifice. Offer your body as a sacrifice. I don't have plumbing. It don't matter. I don't have electricity. It don't matter. I don't have a place to live. It really don't matter. Because when you look at God as all that you have, you realize how great that God is as it created you. And then even if you don't have it, it really doesn't matter. Be thankful for what you have. Me and Linda bought one sign over there in Haiti at a place called a Parent Project, and it said, you can always be thankful for something. You can always be thankful for something. Buying that in a country where kids don't have running water in the houses or electricity all the time in the houses. They don't have food going past 3 days because they have no way to keep it cold. A lot of them don't have education. Most people over there make $2 or $3 a day. Average is $10 to $12 a week, and that's really doing really well over there. And I look at that and I say, God, man, am I offering my body as a living sacrifice? And God says, well, there is one more category that you might fit in. And I was like, well, I better find that category then. So I just typed in worship on Google. I'm a big Google fan now for some reason. It'll find anything in the Bible. And I found this category that maybe, just maybe, God says, maybe this is where you're at, Earl. In Isaiah 29:13, the Lord says, these people come near me with their mouth, and they honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Listen to this. Their worship of me is based on merely human rules that have been taught. You see, some of us have been taught to go to church. Some of us have been taught to only worship God because that must be real. Some of us have been taught that, I need to do some more for the church, and we've been taught that. But everything that we do and everything that we say and we honor on our lips and coming out of our mouth, maybe we can be doing all that, because this is what it says. You can be doing all that. But really, you're only doing it from a human standpoint of what people have told you. That's all you ever knew. But when you offer your body as a living sacrifice, then your circumstances have very little to do with your worship. Your circumstances have very little to do with your worship. And I said, God, there's no way that I'm in this category. There's no way that I'm in this category, God. Because, God, I love you and I worship you, God, and I believe you. And he says, all I'm doing is just pointing out some scriptures. You pick. You pick what category you're in, Earl. Because when life ain't that comfortable and circumstances happen, do you find frustration out of your circumstance? Or are you still a true worshiper? A couple weeks ago, we were so scared we weren't going to have electric in here. The air wasn't going to be running in here. And Josh, he told me, he said, man, I was so scared, and I wasn't even here that week, and I was worried. I was like, man, there's going to be no air in the building, and people are going to come in, and it's going to be a little bit stuffy in the building. Like, that was our big worry. Whether the air would work, and thank God they got it fixed, and the air was running, and you never knew a difference. But that was the things that was on our hearts, is that we wouldn't have air to come and worship God. We wouldn't have air. And so I was refusing to be in category 2 when I left Haiti. But God showed me something else on the way back. And see, we jumped on a plane and we had just spent a whole week loving on little kids. And trying to help worship teams and talk to them and go to the orphanage. And I'm trying to show these little kids how to play a couple chords on the guitar that they had there. And then we go to the school and the church and the orphanage and a couple different places in Haiti to try to do ministry. As soon as we get on the plane, Satan starts to attack. And maybe it's not Satan attacking, but it's God revealing in my life where I'm at. What category I might be in. So we get on the plane, and first thing we get when they drop us off to the airport, your plane has been delayed for 1 hour. Okay, well, 1 hour, we're good. Get on that plane, we fly into Miami. All of a sudden, by the time we get to Miami, they said, well, they told us we had to get our bags. So we go and we grab all our bags, man, and we're flying across the airport because we knew we had to get to this certain place. And this lady's like, oh, you guys are on that plane? Go down here. And we're running down past all these people, and we're like, we're good, man. This is great. They're just like, they know, and they're holding the plane up. Like, they're going to hold a plane up for my family. All right? And we're going down this alleyway, and we're all pulling our bags. Like, come on, Kylie, come on, Trinity, come on, Autumn. And we're going down, and all of a sudden, we come to this line. And we read a sign right in front of us, and it says, for those that missed their planes. I'm like, oh, for the love of God. And then it started in me. I'm like, this is ridiculous, man. This ain't our fault. We got 2 hotel rooms that are in Charlotte. We got to catch his plane so we can get to Charlotte, because Charlotte's where we done paid for the hotel rooms. This is a problem. So we're standing there, right? And guess what happens, right? Me. I said, whoa, hold on a second. It rang in my head. Like, I know someone who works for American Airlines. So I'm getting my pride gun out, right? And I'm like, okay, first bullet is, I know Crystal Robinson. She's worked there for like 130 years. She gonna help us. So I get one bullet in the gun, right? And I'm gonna fire. When I get up there to that counter, it's gonna take me forever to get up there. I didn't realize that after like a half an hour standing, the line ain't moving. And if people are walking and they're saying, no, they ain't giving us nothing. There ain't nothing they can do. And it's got to sit in the airport. And I'm like, that ain't happening to me. I know Crystal. So Crystal, I text her, and hey, I think we're going to miss this flight. What do we do? And she says, make them give you hotel rooms. And I'm like, oh, we're getting hotel rooms. And they're paying for it. So that's like, I'm going to get me some vouchers for my hotel. So I put another bullet into my gun. All right, and I'm gonna fire off. And I said, well, what do I do if that don't work? She said, ask for a manager. Give me another bullet, baby. Another bullet I'm gonna fire them up. So when I get up there, and I'm telling the kid, I ain't just telling myself this. Everybody that's around me, I'm like, hey, when you get up there, ask for a manager. Don't take no for an answer. We're all getting hotel rooms. That's what I'm telling people. Like, I would have been ashamed to say, like, hey, I'm also a pastor, and I just come from Haiti where they ain't got nothing. And I'm worried about not making my hotel in Charlotte. I'm irate. I'm standing there with kids that are tired, kids that are hungry, and Kylie is always tired. Always tired. That kid's either got to go to sleep or go to the bathroom, one or the other. And I knew when you go to Haiti, you just don't let them kids go off by themselves because they might not come back. So, go to the bathroom. Got to go to the bathroom. I'm hungry. We got to go to something to eat. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, good Lord, we're getting hotel rooms. So then listen to this. I said, so well, what if they say no to all that there, Crystal? And she says, well, tell them to elevate your experience. Oh, I'm going to elevate something. We're going to get elevated. So I'm telling everybody around me, hey, when you get up there, listen, there's a new program they're running, right? And they want to elevate your experience. Let's elevate the experience, y'all. When we get up there, we ain't taking no for an answer. It ain't happening. Right? So I'm working, right? We almost up there, man. I got all my curries going, and we're almost to the line, like 4 people, and this dude comes from American Airlines and says, hey, guys, listen, I know you're almost up there, but you can see how slow this line's been. Now, out here, I can't promise you you're going to walk up to the counter, but if you guys will go right through that door, I promise you that they got a lot more people out there that can help you. I said, I know, but they're taking care of problems back here. Those people up there are just checking people in. They ain't going to be able to help. Nah, listen, it's the same people. It don't really matter. I said, okay. Get the baggage. So, you just get the baggage. Every one of us had a suitcase that seemed like about 400 pounds. So I got all the kids pulling one, I'm pulling one, and Linda had a backpack. You could have put Gary Coleman in the back of that backpack. It's hanging off her for like 4 feet. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's go. He said, right when you go through that door, man, I promise you're going to be people telling you where to go. We walk through that door, and that door's shut, locked, and nobody's standing there. I said, oh, hold up. I got me another bullet and stuck it in my gun. I'm going to fire them up when I get up there. Nobody. I'm like, where do we go? And that dude disappeared. I'm like, that is not cool. I don't know where to go. So finally some dude was like, y'all go down there between 3 and 4. That's where they're at. So we go down there, and we're in a longer line than we was in the line we just walked out of. Oh, this is crazy. And I got rights. I know people. I'm going to elevate the experience when I get up there. So right before we walk up there, man, I could see this one lady, and it irritating me to death. This lady had just got done helping someone. And she just goes over, and she's talking to her other little neighbor there. And I'm like, we're next. Let's go. We're next. No, she didn't take us. And I say, we're next. Let's go. Stand there talking, gossiping. I'm like, well, I can't wait. I hope she calls me up there. I hope she calls me because I got rights. Call me up there so I can tell her how she's been gossiping the last 20 minutes, waiting. We're first, we're next in line. We've been waiting in this line for an hour and a half. Now it's 10:30. Kylie's got to go to the bathroom again. All the kids are hungry. We need hotel rooms. We need something. Help us. And all of a sudden, something happened to me, and I just felt God saying, you don't need someone, you need the right someone. Amen. You don't need someone to just walk up to the gate, because there could be a lot of problems when you're going to elevate your experience. See, a lot of Christians are elevating their attitudes because they think they're entitled to something. When you're not entitled to nothing. You live in the greatest country, and it's called America. You're living the home of the free. You can do anything you want. Why do we think we have so many rights? And I felt God saying, you don't need someone, you need the right person. Be patient. I'm like, I done passed patience a long time ago, God. That's what I was talking about. I done been to Haiti. It's been hot. I had to wear pants the whole time. You can't go out and do missionary work in pants or in shorts. You got to wear pants. This ain't cool. I mean, I'm burning up, man. I'm just like, whew, I'm hotter now, and it's air. I'm in air conditioning. I'm burning up in there. I'm going to light them up. I done passed patience. So we go up to this counter, man. This woman's sitting there, and I'm squaring off, man. I just put my head down like, just give me go. I'm gonna pull out this gun. I know Crystal Robinson, she works here. You're gonna elevate my experience. We done paid for hotel rooms. Oh yeah, another thing is every ticket we paid for to go to that little mission trip was $670. We had about $3,000 wrapped up in these little tickets just to get to and fro, and I'm gonna use that too. And I'm just thinking, I'm just waiting for the go point. Like, somebody shoot the gun so I can unload. And this lady, she's like typing. She was like, hold on a second, I gotta get you into a hotel. And all of a sudden, she's like, you need 2 rooms or 1 room? And I was like, oh, I didn't even have to fight for that. I want to fight someone, please, come on, give me something. You need 2 hotels or 1 room? Let me get that in real quick, she said. And then she said, you may go ahead and check your bags. And by the way, I'm going to go ahead and give you a couple vouchers because you guys have had so much problems. And here's enough vouchers for you guys to eat dinner tonight and to eat breakfast in the morning. And I'm just like, oh gosh. Like, I'm ready to unload, man. I wanted to unload. And God says, well, maybe you're still in category 2. Because, see, you still think you're entitled to something. When everybody that followed me, that truly followed me, realized that they had to lay their bodies down as a living sacrifice. And he said, see, when you see people in Haiti that are on their knees when they don't have plumbing, that they don't have electric, and their kids aren't being educated, and most times they don't have food. And when you see them worship, you need to understand is that they're not living their life based on what Americans do at the church. They're living their lives based on what they're reading in my Word. They're reading about Paul, who sacrificed everything. They're reading about Peter, who was hung upside down. They're reading about people that had been thrown in boiling pots, of oil for the cause of Christ. They're hearing about Paul, who was jailed. They're reading these stories in the Bible, and they don't have to read about what the Americans are doing because they don't know what we're doing here. So when these people, it's what God's telling me. Earl, do you understand that when these people are on their faces and they're worshiping and tears are coming down their eyes, it's not subjected to what they don't have compared to you. They're realizing that their bodies have to be a living sacrifice also compared to what they're reading in my Word. So that's why it looks different. That's why when they read Romans 1, when they read Romans 12, 1 and 2, and it says, therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is what they're going to try to do in the midst of their circumstance. And I just wonder, if I find myself, most times, to be honest, in category 2, as a pastor of a church, who I feel like that in the American church, I would consider, someone who works for God, loves God, prays to God, reads God's Word. But if I say this, is that I don't always view my circumstances as Romans 12:2. Does it look closer to Isaiah 29:13 that says, these people come near me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Well, how do you know? Well, all I can do is upset you for 1 second. Because see, when I upset you, it's going to take you to elevate your experience. If I upset you and everything gets elevated, you get upset, you might need to find a new church. You get upset because of this or because of that or because you're right. See, the thing is, you might be falling just like I am falling sometimes in category 2. And folks, here's the thing. If us pastors feel like that, then I promise that you sometimes feel like that. There are times when you look at this and you have a choice, and when you say, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, Paul even went on to say, it's not me that lives in the body anymore, but it's Christ that lives in me. That the life that I live in the body, it's not mine, but it's Christ. Then I think that things that run through your head that God calls you to, you should be listening to. When I was over there, I got off the plane, and the very first thing I said before I ever got to an orphanage is I said, I could live here. My wife said, will you write that down? Because I ain't experienced nothing yet. I said, no honey, I could live here. She says, you kidding me? I said, I could live here. These people need help. We go to the orphanage. These kids are laying all over you. They don't know I don't even like them. They're hugging me, my fat roll, bouncing my fat rolls. I could jack their jaw half the time for doing it. They don't know me. But they love me. They need help. Folks, listen to me. I'm not telling you need to do anything that God's not telling you to do. But I know from when the very first time I walked into that country, when I knew the desolate that was in that country, God said, Earl, you can help these people. So I told my wife, but before we was even done with the trip, I said, we got a 3-year plan. 3-year plan. Let's get our affairs in order, because we're going to live permanently in Haiti for a while. She was like, okay. So I don't know what God will do. I'm praying. And I'm praying. Now, don't walk out of here and go and put on Facebook, well, our pastor's leaving to go to Haiti. Because I said I got a 3-year plan. 3-year plan. And God's got to show me and open doors along this way to say, yes, Earl, I'm confirming you need to do this. But the American church is not hurting for pastors. The American church, this church sitting right here, has about 6 ordained people in this church right now that could stand up here and preach a sermon. We're not hurting for pastors. So you got to do what God calls you to do. And I'm going to do what God calls me to do. And we'll see what happens in the end. But I'm praying, for the love of God, I'm praying that I start loving children a little more around here. If He ever calls me to love children there. Because right now I don't have a whole lot of patience for kids. And they start grabbing my fat roll over there and they know English, and we're going to have a problem. You know, because I know mean little kids sometimes. But I want to tell you this. Here's what I want you to leave with today. Not that you got to worry about your pastor. Listen, I'm only going to do what God confirms and calls me to do. I've always done that. So you don't have to worry about what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do whatever God calls me to do. You do what God calls you to do. And in the midst of that, let's fulfill Romans 12, 1 and 2. Let's fulfill that. I just want to read it, and I hope it's back up on the screen. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. You're going to have to sacrifice something if you call yourself a Christian. Oh, I got money. That don't really matter to God a whole lot. I got resources. That don't really matter to God a whole lot. I've got a family that loves me. Really doesn't matter when God says to leave them. Let me go back and take care of my mother and my father, and God says, let the dead bury the dead. You come follow me. So God's not concerned about your family too much. Now, in the text of what I'm saying, I'm talking about following Him. If God's called you to follow Him, you follow Him. In view of God's mercy, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Listen to this. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to stand and able to test and approve what God's will is. His good, pleasing, and perfect will. So many people in here are looking for God's will, but they ain't willing to sacrifice nothing to get it. So many people in here want God's will for their life, and they want blessing, but they ain't willing to sacrificially live the way the Bible says to live. I know people that will say, Earl, I want God to bless me, and I say, why don't you get married? That will help.
There you go.
Well, I want God to bless me, and my boyfriend will stop having sex. That'd do it. When the Bible says don't be fornicators, it means don't be fornicators. I don't know. I just want God to bless this relationship. You can't ask for God's blessing if you live outside of God's will. Not continually living in sin. It don't happen, folks. And what I'm saying is why? Why am I saying what I'm saying? It ain't to attack anybody in here. Why? Because God says, Earl, I want you to get out of category 1 or 2, and I want you to get here and offer yourself. Get out of this thing of saying that you are, listen, with your lips and with your mouth, you're talking a whole lot of stuff about me. Why don't you start doing it? So you can't be loving on people in Haiti and get mad at the lady at the counter at American Airlines and fire her up when it ain't her fault that the plane didn't take off in Haiti on time. It ain't her fault that we paid for hotel rooms in Charlotte. It ain't her fault. So am I going to act like Christ or am I going to act like me? Am I going to load my gun and go up there and show her love? And you know what's crazy? I'm standing there firing my gun, and you know what Trinity McPhee told me? I almost had to smack her too. I'm going to tell you, ticked me off. I'm standing there, and Trinity McPhee says, hey, you know what I think? I said, what do you think? I'm thinking, give me another bullet. I'll upsize. I don't have to stick with a 6-shooter. We can upsize. We'll put 8 in that mug. She says, I'll bet you them ladies up there has had some really bad days. I'm like, shut your face. I'll punch you too. You know, that's what I thought. Like, why you say, yeah, you're right. What are you doing? Yeah, she was hungry. She was tired. She got delayed. And she sees it like Christ would see it. To see them through His eyes, that they probably having a bad day too, since the flight got delayed and 40 people are standing there wanting hotel vouchers and food vouchers and to be taken care of. Why? Because we think that God owes us something. God don't owe you nothing. Listen to me. If you take anything out of here, God don't owe you nothing. He don't owe you a thing. Why? Because He sent His Son to die for you. He done did His part. God don't owe you a job. God don't owe you resources. He don't owe you a running car. He don't owe you electric and water and plumbing and an education. He don't owe you nothing. Why? Because His Son done died on a cross for you. That's enough. Offer your bodies as living sacrifice if He never did another thing. Amen? Offer your bodies if He never does another thing. We don't understand the depression and stress that I have. Get over it. You're living in yourself. Well, you don't understand what I'm going through. Oh, yeah, I do. I seen a man with no leg at 90 years old get on his hands and knees and raise his hand and tears coming down his eyes, and I guarantee you, that dude he probably has a place to live, but I guarantee he's probably sleeping on a dirty old mattress with no running water, no plumbing, no air conditioning. If he can cry, surely we can shed a tear every once in a while for God. Folks, I'm a hammer myself today. I'm not hammering any of you. You know why? Because you didn't experience what I experienced. Won't you elevate your experience with God? Elevate your experience. See what category you ride in. If you didn't write these verses down today, you may need to write them down. Find out which category you're in. What has God called you to? Maybe God has called you to be a teacher of a lifetime, to change some kids' lives. Maybe that's your job. Maybe that's what God's called you to. And if He's called you to that, be the best Christian teacher you could ever possibly be. If God's called you to mission work, get on it. Quit telling people you want to do it and go do it. If God called you to sing songs, you sing them. If God's called you to take up offering, you do that. If God's called you to construction and you be the best Christian construction worker and you work with integrity. If God's called you to be a police officer, you do that. But you offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. Because that's what I intend to start doing more of. Amen?